Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Should be a tester. Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. I can hear it, can't you? You can hear the ding ding. I'm hearing it up over here. That's right. Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. The input level is okay. Go back to test again. Yeah, I can hear that right there on that one right over there. Hear anything? No. And then. Test 1, 2. That's coming over. I don't think so, because it sounded like it was right. Because it has the mic listed. Because I've got this all the way turned out. I could hear it now. I can't hear anything because I think I'm listening to it for so long.
Yeah.
There it is again. I can hear it again.
It's coming from here. It's not being broadcast. Next one's
Is that
right. No, we don't hear it, and online viewers hear it.
Well, that's one thing. If we logged in, we could tell. Do you have your phone with you? No, nobody's logged in it right now. Do you have your phone with you? Do you have your phone with you?
Oh, sorry.
Let me go grab mine because we can log in and then test it that way.
Okay, I'll go back.
So. Meeting ID and then the passcode. So join.
Same ID.
Okay, 860-6777-6974. And then passcode is 778063. Yep. Okay, go in the hall and see if you can hear me. So it depends on if you guys have a recording on their account. So yeah, you can hit record. Check 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Okay, he can hear. I was making sure they could hear me on that. Oh. So it automatically, all she has to do is, it says it's recording. Yep.
All right, could I have everyone's attention, please? Ask you to take your seats. Grab a meal if you haven't had a chance to yet. First of all, thank you all for coming today. Welcome to the Iowans Supporting Israel's luncheon for this month. On behalf of our board of directors, we thank you for coming and spending your lunch with us today. We have a few elected officials who I'd like to recognize before we kick off, elected or former. First of all, former Governor and Ambassador Terry Branstad. Representative John Dunwell is with us. And longtime Polk County Supervisor E.J. Giovanetti. E.J., thank you for coming. In 2022, Iowa exported more than $34 million worth of goods to Israel. Since 1996, Iowa's exports have totaled right around $1 billion overall. Israel now ranks as Iowa's 26th leading trading partner, and Iowa ranks 27th among all U.S. states in trade to Israel. So Israel is a place where we are currently doing a lot of business, and it's also a place where there probably are a lot more opportunities that we could unlock. And that's the topic of today. We'll hear about those existing and potential ties from a great panel we have with us that represents a good cross-section of Iowa industry. And what we will do is invite them to come up to the front of the room after I get done with the introductions. They'll each give about 5 minutes of remarks or so. Then we'll open up the floor to questions. Tom Henderson will have a microphone that he'll bring around. So when we do ask a question, please wait for him so that those of us joining us by Zoom can hear the question. And then we'll wrap things up by 1 o'clock so that you guys can get on with your day. One of our panelists, and the first one who'll be talking today, is Debi Durham. Debi is the director of the Iowa Economic Development Authority and the Iowa Finance Authority. She's been in that role since 2011. And during her tenure, she's turned the agency into a successful public-private partnership, landed billion-dollar economic development projects for Iowa, and worked tirelessly on expanding trade and investment opportunities for the state. She prides herself on building coalitions, supporting new ventures, and strengthening the state's industries and communities. And in fact, she just returned from a trade mission to Italy, Kosovo, and Israel with the governor and several other people. So I'm sure we'll hear about that in her remarks today. Dan Keough currently serves as the chairman and CEO of Holmes, Murphy and Associates. He specializes in planning, organizing, and implementing strategic decisions for its nationwide offices. Dan is also the co-CEO and co-founder of BrokerTech Ventures, which has been working with Israeli and U.S. insurtech founders and brokers. Some of you were here for a luncheon we had last November with Itai Baran from the Israeli consulate office in Chicago. He talked to us about more political related issues, but he really was in town to take part in an insurtech symposium that was held at Holmes Murphy. So we're excited to hear more about that. Billi Hunt is our third panelist. She has served or is currently the executive director of America's Cultivation Corridor. She's been in that role since 2018. She works with America's Cultivation Corridor investors, partners, and other organizations to build the corridor brand and broaden opportunities within the region. A new cohort of Cultivo Virtual Academy, which is hosted by America's Cultivation Corridor, was launched on July 6th. Some of you may have read about this in the business record. 7 companies from Israel are participating in the virtual program that provides participants with mentorship, interaction with Iowa's agricultural leaders, and an online curriculum focused on U.S. market entry, regulatory and financing systems, and customer perspectives. So we're excited to hear from each of them about their experience with Israel. We'd invite them to join us up here. Let's give them a welcome hand as they make their way up to the front. So Debi, why don't we start with you, and then we can go to Dan and then to Billi, and then I'll come back up when we open the floor for questions.
Well, first of all, good afternoon. It's great to see everyone. As Charles said, the governor and I just got back from a whirlwind 3-country trip in 10 days, not something I would recommend doing, by the way. But we ended our trip in Israel. So it was my second trip to Israel. I went with her back in 2017. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was her third trip. You know, I have to say, the first time I came back from Israel, somebody asked me what my impression was, and it was life-changing for me for a variety of reasons, because obviously the foundation of my faith, getting to experience it. But when you just see the level of innovation that is happening there across so many sectors, and the sense of urgency in which they operate, I have to say it captured my heart. And so it was really great to be back. So what we did is we had a very, very busy time there. We kind of focused on, if you think of Iowa, I would challenge you to think of Iowa as these 3 main verticals or traded clusters. Advanced manufacturing, which is the largest part of our gross state product. But our largest and probably deepest platform is the biosciences. And it's everything from fuels all the way into, vaccines and immunotherapies. And then it's, of course, insurance and finance. So when we were in Israel, if you look at where they align with us, because we're looking for alignment opportunities, not only for us to bring investment there, but for them to bring investment to Iowa. The areas we really focused on, which was why it was so great that Dan was able to join us there as well, is really in that finance, insurance tech space, and then the ag tech space. So if you look at the bio platform that I talked about, right now, we're seeing some dynamic activity there. You're seeing things like some emerging opportunities. So it's not just fuels, since we own that space. And I really thank then Governor Branstad for really starting that industry here in the state of Iowa. But it's really thinking beyond that and looking at bio-based products and how we help companies reach these net zero goals, carbon goals by the year, some 2030, as early as 2030 up to 2050. And then there's precision and digital agriculture. And if you think about it, Iowa should absolutely own that space, which is why it's equally as important. And I want to thank Governor Reynolds and our legislature that have made major investments in broadband deployment and connectivity. So with what the public has invested in the last few years, combined with what's happening in the private sector, I think it's going to be close to $1 billion worth of investment that we're seeing. And that's critically important. But then there's vaccines and immunotherapies. And you think about, we've always been very strong on the animal side of that platform, but now we're even seeing it more on the human platform. And then a newest one, and then medical devices are innovations. And if you think about that, there is so much opportunity in Israel within all those spaces. Our newest area that we're really exploring is regenerative ag. And it's really, how are we going to embrace this carbon market coming forward? So what we did is we hosted a couple of events. We did a great ag tech event where we had venture capitalists there, and they brought their companies. And I tell you, there were probably 90 people in the room. And I also have to tell you, I was so impressed that the night before the event, I get an email that went to my general email box, and they forwarded it to me. And it was from this young man who happens to be going to school in the States, but lives in Israel, is from Israel. And he said, I saw that Iowa will be presenting, and I went to sign on for your conference, and it was already booked, so I couldn't get in. And I texted him back, and I thought, there's no way he's going to get this. It was very late at night. And I said, if you come tomorrow, I'll make sure you have a seat. Not only did this young man come, but he's decided his really lifelong goal is to work for John Deere in Iowa. So we are, I said, I can't get you a job, but what I can do is at least connect you with the John Deere folks. It just talks about how small the world really is, right? So we had an incredible opportunity there. So much so that we've invited them to come here. And we're thinking there's no better opportunity, Ambassador, than the World Food Prize, that they would come here and bring their venture capital teams here and with some companies, and we can make some introductions. So that was an incredible opportunity. And then we got to work on the insurtech space. So we worked with, and Dan will talk about that, in the broker tech and the Global Insurance Symposium. And we also think we have another group that is going to come there as well. Now, of course, the governor was also doing, she had a meeting with the prime minister. Obviously, we just took a proclamation. She took a proclamation, recognizing their 75th anniversary. Now, where's Charles? Now, Charles, I missed the prime minister meeting because of you. You may not have known that because Charles sends me this email saying there's a lead activity. There's a business over there that may go to Omaha. Well, of course, that's all he had to say is it may go to Omaha. And I said, where are they? Well, of course, they were about 3 hours away where we were, but I got in a car and we drove there for 3 hours and 3 hours back. So I just want you to know I was chasing deals even over there. So thank you very much for that, Charles. I missed the entire cultural day, but no, it was well worth it. So we do see some tremendous opportunities. And I have to tell you that my inbox is full right now because when I talked about they operate with a sense of urgency, and there's no doubt about that. So they're already talking about, can you connect us here or what group, an accelerator? And so that's why it's so great that Billi is here because we got to actually meet with several of the companies in person that are in her first cohort. So with that, I'll pause and I will turn it over to Dan.
Well, thank you. Our relationship with Israel for Holmes Murphy goes back. Holmes Murphy, as many of you know, it's a privately held company in the insurance brokerage space, goes all the way back to 1932 with Max and Ray. They're great friends to Israel, and I look at it as our responsibility to continue that relationship and grow it. When you go back in time, some things only happened during a pandemic. And I would say that our relationship with BrokerTech and the connection that we have with Israel happened during that pandemic period. We were on a Zoom with an individual that reached out to us after we started BrokerTech Ventures. And so I'll back up and say BrokerTech Ventures is basically a platform company where we invited some of the top insurance companies in the country with some of the top insurance brokers in the country from Silicon Valley to New Jersey on both shores. So we have 30 companies in our space that all want to see technology get integrated into the value chain. So from a customer perspective, we want to be, how can we serve our clients easier and better? How can we simplify the big cloud around insurance, what it is and how it responds? And how can we have technology help us do that? And so the accelerator is something that we started pre-pandemic, and we now have 48 investments in technology companies that all believe that they have an opportunity to get into insurance because they think they can make a difference. We as insurance brokers, insurance companies, wholesalers, all listen to their idea, connect them to customers and test their ideas out. So we've been doing that for 3 or 4 years. Kobe Bendelak, who leads InsurTech Israel, reached out to us during the pandemic. And he was connected to me through Susan. Susan had, she was involved in Global Insurance Accelerator, which is the first accelerator of its kind in the insurance space in the United States, started here in Des Moines, Iowa. BrokerTech Ventures was the second accelerator that was started here by brokers. So ours is a broker-led distinction. Kobe has a series of calls, and finally I'm like, Susan, I'm not sure. And this is over Zoom. And he's like, Dan, you have to trust me. And I'm like, Susan, I think we're going to give it a shot. Sure enough, it's in our 4th year. We've had 4 delegations over from Israel that we've hosted on each time, maybe 15 different entrepreneurs that have ideas on how they believe they can transform insurance in different parts of the insurance value chain. Some may be for brokers' benefits, some may be for insurance companies' benefits, and some may be for clients. For us, our focus is on the client. How can we help our clients identify risk sooner or drive down their cost faster using technology or better insights, whether it's AI or robotics processing or whatever the actual solution may be. We're open to whatever their idea is. And we look at it as our opportunity to push them forward to clients and make introductions. And, the intensity in which they move is great. I think their compulsory military service has them really laser sharp. Their military is based on obviously all technology. Therefore, all these individuals come out of the military and they have got a very aggressive and really super smart talent in our business. Talent is the #1 distinction of success. So we're always looking for incredible entrepreneurs that are really intense and smart around solving our clients' problems. And so last year or so, we went over on a delegation trip where Broker Tech went over to speak at the graduation event of the first accelerator that we invested in. We invested in three companies to help them get started. And we were at the Microsoft Innovation Center. It was really a cool event. It was probably 200 people there that were all around insurance and technology, and they wanted our cards and they followed up. And I mean, it's been a really healthy relationship, and we're always trying to advance their ideas if we think we can make a difference for them. So just thrilled to have the relationship. Kobe Bendelak has been a great partner of ours in this. We were grateful that Director Durham and Governor asked us to host the day, and we filled a room probably with 50 or 60 people that, you know, we picked out 10 or so to pitch the governor and Director Durham on their ideas, great ideas. And it was a wonderful event. And then after, we had a dinner with some of the top CEOs, chief innovation officers from the whether it's the actuarial side, the insurance company side, or others that we think that could have an alignment with insurance. I think insurance is the best kept secret that we don't leverage in the state of Iowa. Financial services in the state of Iowa is a significant vertical that we can own nationally. And so we're trying to do our part to stand it up and push it forward internationally as well as within the United States.
Good afternoon. A little bit about America's Cultivation Corridor. It began almost 10 years ago in 2014. A bunch of people in the ag industry came together. Then the global leaders really in the ag industry, John Deere, at that time it was Pioneer, Kent Corporation, Sukup, ones that lead in their sector of the industry, all have footprints here. Sam, we needed to do a better job of elevating innovation in the industry and helping people understand innovation. When we look at Iowa, we think of Norman Borlaug, we think of Henry A. Wallace, and a lot of times no one else can go on and name another innovator, but we've innovated in this industry from the very beginning. In many cases, it was agriculture who did it first. The mechanization and the manufacturing lines started in agriculture. The most recent thing that agriculture did first, the first autonomous vehicle was the John Deere tractor. So agriculture always does it first, but we often forget that innovation is happening every day. I spent 20 years of my career at Pioneer, and I thought the world just came to Pioneer. I worked in their government affairs and external relations department, and you know, we loved the state fair and we hated the state fair because that meant we had all these international visitors. We loved the World Food Prize. We hated the World Food Prize because we got no rest during those weeks because everyone just came here. And we just, honestly, I thought it was Pioneer until I took this job and I realized it's the whole state and how the world looks to us to lead. So it's a great opportunity. I'm often humbled by the people I get to work with and the leadership in the global industry that I get to work with. We are excited about our upcoming 10-year anniversary, which will mean we're like 2 months, a year, well, in August. So we're almost 10 years away from a memorandum of understanding that was signed before I was at the corridor between Iowa's Cultivation Corridor at the time and Israel, that we would work together, that we would find ways to find success and to help each other succeed. When you look at the food and ag industry, it's a little bit different. It's different because we're highly regulated. We're highly aware of risk, but our customers don't like risk. Farmers hate risk, but that's their job every day. You know, they walk outside and pray for rain. A rain can mean they find success immediately or that they're not going to have a good year. So as we look at agriculture and we look at innovation, there's so many opportunities to solve those pain points, those areas that we can find people to connect. As Dan was talking about their accelerator, we do have a program called Cultivation. It was launched in 2019. We were going to have a group of Australia innovators come in May of 2020 to engage and learn about the Iowa agricultural ecosystem and how you can do anything from Iowa. Uniquely, Iowa is placed in the best spot in the country. Even though we don't have beaches, I think I'm okay with that. If you go in a 6-hour radius from the capital, a 6-hour radius, you're going to get all but one soil type in North America. You're going to basically get all weather conditions. I used to say we don't have hurricanes, but we do have derecho, so maybe you get that too. So if you're wanting to find success in food and ag when it's based on nature, you're 6 hours from most of it right here. So why not be here? So Cultivo was the whole idea to bring innovators in, let them see how Iowa Nice not only helps with like finding directions where to get someplace, but can help elevate your business. It can help drive you forward. So we were going to bring them in, but I think COVID made it better because we had to do it virtually. So we're in our third cohort right now. We have seven, it's our third cohort. 7 Israeli businesses are a part of it. 3 of them were texting me after the big Iowa day there. Oh my goodness, I just met your governor. Oh my goodness, Debi Durham. It was kind of funny because every morning I wake up and there's usually 10 Israeli emails waiting there. So I knew everything Debi had done that day. But they see the relationship. They see how you can connect. Our cohort, we do not take any stake in the companies that participate. It's typically a fee-based program where they pay and we give them education. But the whole theory behind it is when you finally come to the US, you're ready for meetings. A lot of countries have landing pads on the coast and they bring businesses in for 3 months, but they come here and then they have to start working. Well, with our virtual thing, they can have all their meetings ready to go. They know they're going to be beneficial when they arrive and that they can drive their businesses forward. So in our cohort, we have, Debbie was talking about biomass processing. We have a company that deals with black soldier fly, which actually can help with carbon offsets, help with management of biofuels. And actually, they are meeting with one of our companies right now about an Iowa company. How do you partner with them? We have several that are in the AI space. AI is great if you don't listen to the news because we need more workers here. So if AI can take things so you don't have to get people to work on the farm and that knowledge can be brought in, huge opportunity. So there's some AI companies. There's some in the what I would call the biologic space. How do we do things better? How do we move to the next generation of synthetic chemicals into naturally derived things to help with growth of crops? So they're a fun group. It's a 6-week course. Last week, we had the chief economist from Corteva visit with them about the economics and understanding global economics and what that means as you launch your business. My favorite class is going to be this week. It's what hat do you wear when you enter the US marketplace? Do you wear your brand that you have in Israel? Or is it better to partner or license your technology? How can you grow your business the fastest? And that one's always where you see a lot of light bulbs go off like, oh, it might be better to partner with John Deere. It might be better to partner with, let's say, a Latham seed company. There might be other ways you can connect. So we get them through the class. At the end, they are given the opportunity for a year affiliate agreement with ISU Research Park so they can act or integrate with the faculty. They can engage with students, but most importantly, hopefully after they have a post office box for a year, they want this to be domiciled here. We've had 2 businesses domiciled through our 3 cohorts here. So hopefully we have an Israeli one. I do want to give credit to David Edelman. He was a big like, hey, David, I need 2 more really good companies because you can get people to join, but we want ones that are going to find success here. He got it done within 48 hours. I don't know how he does it, but he's truly amazing. I would also like to give credit to Holmes Murphy. They invited me out to their pitch day back in November, and that's when I met with Itai. And we started talking about what would a whole Israeli cohort look like. So if it wouldn't have been for an insurance company inviting an ag person out, we probably would have never picked Israel to do this. So again, that's what makes Des Moines and Iowa great. We don't keep everything solely to a specific industry. So I have to give credit to the team out there because my husband's in the insurance world. He goes, what are you doing going to Holmes Murphy today? I'm like, I'll tell you tonight. So, and I came back saying, this is how we need to work. If I have strong relationships in a country, how do we pull the other industry in the state along too? So I could talk forever, but Israel's been a great partner. And so has economic development and Broker Tech for having that meeting that day.
Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. Debbie, if today's free lunch doesn't make up for not having a chance to see the Prime Minister, I'll do what I can to try and make it up to you. But we appreciate your hard work and hunting down that opportunity for us. And I learned something from each one of you, and it was really interesting to hear about the different opportunities and things that are happening right now in insurance and ag and in other areas too. And I'm sure other people have questions, and maybe as you're putting those together, I'd like to exercise some privilege and see if I could ask the first question. And that is just to ask you, each one of you, maybe tell us a little bit about what, in your opinion, it takes to go from a networking opportunity, meeting someone, to actually inking a deal and bringing jobs to the state and the businesses here. Billy, could we start with you maybe, and then just work down the row, and then we'll open the floor.
I would say it takes personal commitment. It's pretty easy on that front. It may not start how you plan. It may not look like you plan, but usually coming together helps. It also takes people like David Edelman saying, hey, Billy, let me dive into this. I will have you something tomorrow morning. And he did it. So, I think it's just the personal connection, follow through, and understanding. We all come into the table with a different perspective, but that doesn't mean we can't get work done.
So I'll maybe answer that from a personal experience. When I was born and raised in Chicago. I went to the University of Iowa, graduated, and then I worked for a large public company in Chicago that I was an expert in a very small niche area called captive insurance. In 1999, I moved my wife and my then son, Daniel, who's in the back of the room now. He's just finishing his second year at Drake Law School, is getting a JD MBA. But I moved out to Des Moines to start a company. Doug Reichard, Jim Swift, and Nick Henderson really sponsored me to start a company. I had a passion for what I thought I could do, and they were very supportive of me. And the Iowa community, the Des Moines community, was incredibly supportive. The access that I received to the business community, the leaders, really made a really impact on me. And when we speak about access, sponsorship, and support, I think there has to be a community of supporters. And I know firsthand that we have that here in Iowa, and certainly here in the greater metro area. So I just think that if we find the right people that have the passion and the ability, and we have the right ability to connect them, support them, and advance their cause, they can be successful.
Yeah, so I was remiss in not recognizing Peggy Kerr. Peggy actually is here, and she leads our international team. So I think besides relationship, because first of all, everything's about relationship at the end of the day, right? And it's not 6 degrees of separation, it's like 1 or 2, right? You just, in fact, the only number on my business card is my cell phone. Someone called the other day and said, can I share your cell phone number with somebody? And I said, everybody has it. Yes, of course. But I think it also goes a little deeper than that. It's really about an investment. You have to make an investment. So since our first trip in 2017 is when we made the commitment to have someone representing Iowa every day in Israel as a contractor. And I think that actually made the difference, because Jerry has been able to open up all kinds of doors and opportunity. And I think they know, they trust him. They've got somebody there they can go to in Israel that is connected to us. And then it gets into the relationship. It's interesting, besides the startup, we actually called on some legacy companies there as well. And right now, our portfolio, and I've been doing this, as you know, since the beginning with Governor Branstad's return in 2011, our portfolio is larger than it's ever been. COVID taught us a lot, and I think it showed us our weaknesses as the U.S., that we outsource too much, right? And so what we're seeing right now with advanced manufacturing and food security, or medicines and vaccines, pharmaceuticals, that there is that real desire to bring that back to the United States. And so having someone there that can distinguish out when you come to the United States, where do you go? And having someone that can be there every day representing Iowa, that's been really important. One of the companies we worked with, and I can, talk about this, it's called Else. And it's not a startup. They're probably in their life cycle, the second to third phase, right? They're still needing to raise money, but it's a plant-based baby formula. And I am now the grandmother of 4. I keep telling my children that we have to grow Iowa's population. They're taking me seriously. Grandmother of 4. And of course, children right now, many people can't use milk products, right? And so it's a phenomenal, and and they're doing contract manufacturing already here in the state of Iowa. Well, so they want to grow that. So their request was they love Iowa. They love the work we're providing for them, the manufacturing, but it was really that connection that FDA, can we open doors at the FDA for them to basically get this recognized as a baby formula, right? Right now it can be sold, and it is being sold because they do other product lines as well, as really a supplement, right? Kind of in the nutraceutical space. So that's pretty exciting. And so we came back. And the other thing, let me also say, there's such a great proposition, not for just bringing stuff back to the US, and then why Iowa makes sense if you're in those spaces here, but it's also our energy portfolio. And again, I give, Governor Branstad credit for starting, when you think of wind, 64% of our portfolio is renewable, 62% of it's wind. There is not another state in the US that can touch that. Now, there's a lot of people that make claims, but if you drill it back, and a lot of it's smoke and mirrors, it's not renewable. And again, and you've got Mid-American that's saying by the year 2030, we're going to be at 100%. That's a calling card in Israel. That's a calling card in the world. And so really that value proposition. So the more that we can bring them in, whether it's through Dan's Broker Tech or Billy's through Cultivation, and get that introduction and those connections, and then have Jerry on site that's able to follow up and really sell the values. So it's been incredible. So I think you're going to really be seeing here, I think in pretty short order, some really nice announcements on Israel investing in Iowa.
Great, that's exciting to hear. Now I'm told we don't actually need a microphone for you to ask your questions. There are mics here in the room that'll pick up whatever you ask. So I'll just go ahead and open the floor to questions. And if you would, for the benefit of our panelists, before you ask a question, just announce your name. All right, who has a question for our panel? Mike Ralston, I'm sure you've got a question. You're always good. You represent a lot of employers.
Great information. I don't have a question. Thank you, though.
Prakash.
Based on the meeting in Israel and also ongoing, are there any targets as a team that we set by 2030? The business between Iowa and Israel should go at this dollar amount, or any targets discussed?
So you talked earlier about trade and growth in Israel.
Yeah, so I don't know that we have exact targets. I mean, at this point, I think what we're going to want, we're looking at right from a participation point of view. Are we seeing more Israeli companies can visit, right? Are we seeing them participate in our accelerators or some of those? I mean, obviously we have some trade goals that we continue to try to meet, but on the investment side, that's a little hard, right? Because investment time is a long-term proposition. What was it that we closed a deal that the other day, and people were saying how great that was. I said, yeah, it only took us 10 years to close that deal, right? So when you're in economic development, you're in it for the long run. So on the FDI side, it's a little harder. So I think it's really more of the exposure stuff. And I really do think if we can show both our return visits over there, that we're bringing delegations on a regular basis to Israel, but at the same time, we start seeing them bring delegations over here, whether it's around the insurance symposium around the world, the global insurance or World Food Prize. I think that's how we would measure that. I don't know what you have.
Just to add on, so Global Insurance Accelerator and Broker Tech Ventures has been collaborating. And so a lot of people come for the Global Insurance Accelerator and we host a delegation around that time. In a short period of time, we've had 3 companies compete to get into our accelerator, have been successfully in our accelerator. So from our perspective, we're thrilled after just a short couple of years, 3 or 4 years, that we already have companies from Israel in our accelerator that we're helping advance moving forward. So I'd expect that to continue.
This is our first Israeli business through this Israeli cohort. So measuring that success, I hope we can base it off of what we did in our first two multinational cohorts. And we look at success. We had a business in the last one sign a proof of concept with Corteva. That's success. We've had one sign on with a tax and accounting firm here in town. That's success because that drives them business too. Plus it keeps them close contact and think about Iowa. We've had others sign on with some other consulting groups. So when we look at that, we consider that success if they do a research project with Iowa State, because especially in the ag industry, you typically need to do a food trial, an animal health trial, or a plant trial. So getting them in with faculty at Iowa State to do those research trials gives them momentum as they go and file with FDA, EPA, USDA to get their products approved to be used. So we look at how we measure that differently, but every time they're making a connection that's more than a 2-day conversation, we consider that big success.
Yes, but
Okay, for the city lawyer to ask about agriculture,
of course, yeah.
describe for us some of the technology in agriculture developed in Israel. In 2012, the world food price went to an Israeli agronomist on drip irrigation. Deb, you probably know
Daniel.
some things you can tell us about.
Yeah. In fact, we met with Daniel, right when we were there in 2017, right?
So I would say, I mean, some of the companies that we're working with through this program, there's a company working on the bioactive compounds that are naturally occurring in the ground. How do you turn them on? We have another organization. I mentioned the black soldier flies because I hate bugs, and we have a bug company in here. DriftSense is dealing a lot with more accurate spraying of how you put inputs on seeds and plants. Plant Art Bio and Progeny, they're really kind of far out there. One's dealing with mRNAi, and one is dealing with a new way of creating crop protection products overall. CDEX is one that's been working with Paul Schickler off and on, the former president of Pioneer, been working with him off and on. They ended up moving to vegetable seed, and now they're ready to come back to agricultural commodity type seeds. So they're back in the program on that. I would say what I find most fascinating when I'm talking with agriculture and food companies, we need to remember agriculture ends up as food, and food companies in Israel, a lot of them come from the medical side of the world, the human health side. They think it's easier to find the solutions here, or maybe it's easier to adapt to a plant or an animal over a human, less concerns with human health. At the same time, they're very smart, and their technologies really play in both spaces very well. So find success here and then go to the other side. That obviously.
Yeah, I would actually see medical tech over there, medical devices is huge in Israel, right? And so though we're starting that with the University of Iowa, we have a new platform that we're trying to develop on that. That is stuff that we really see a big interest. Now, that wasn't really the focus of this particular trip, but on the ag side also, but I would say it's really around water conservation and, and water recycling. And I have to tell you, it is something that weighs on me. We've not really had to be that concerned about that in Iowa, but we need to be, right? And so we're even doing initiatives, because if you think about the industries we serve in the biospace, many of these are large consumers of water. And so what we are saying is, if when you come a project, we don't want to know just what your capital project is and the number of jobs and the quality of the jobs. We want to know about how you are recycling water and what are your conservation plans. In fact, even when we had an ARPA fund this last time, Governor Reynolds gave us money to work with industries that are really those water intensive industries to really figure that out of how we become, I mean, again, we're more concerned about the conservation of water. And I think that's something Israel in particular can really teach us. But yeah, so very dynamic space. And on the ag stuff, we're seeing things all across. In fact, one of them is growing fish. They figured out something where they could actually grow saltwater fish. And I said, in Iowa, and I said, you do know where we are. I said, let me show you. We have 2 navigable rivers, those are. They said, no, we have this process. It doesn't matter. We can be anywhere. And we want you for your central location. I thought, well, that's a first. So I don't know exactly how that one's going to work out, Bud, but that's something that was one of the leads that we got.
I
So-
would also say when it comes to production, agriculture and food production, they can't do it in Israel. So, you can come up with the idea, but you can't grow it there. You can't, whether it's livestock or whether it's plant, they have to go somewhere. So if we are seen as a trusted partner, let's open the doors.
I think that's the key, trusted.
Hey, Charles, I do have a question.
All right, Mike.
First of all, you and I have known each other for 25 years and you let me get away with calling you Dan. I was looking at you. I apologize, but I've been called worse.
So have I.
Okay, panelists, this is a very sophisticated question, but a lot of us in the room represent folks who are in more rural areas, smaller manufacturers. What's the best way for them to hook up with some Israeli partners? Debbie, do you keep a list of somebody like that? You all have relationships. Tell us how you started building those relationships and what you advise others.
Yeah, so for instance, the baby food else that we were talking about is actually partnering with a rural Iowa contractor right now. So that as they look to grow their own footprint in the state, that's where they want to be in rural Iowa. So we do make those connections. I mean, when it really gets to the point, I mean, a lot of the companies we met with, we did some legacy companies, as I said. But the stuff we did on the startup, that they're so early stage that primarily we're just trying to get them here and probably locating in one of probably the research park, right? Would be a good address for most of them unless they're partnering with someone. But once we get to the manufacturing, then obviously we scope that and source that where it needs to go. And as you know, Mike, better than anybody, there is a manufacturing plant behind every cornfield in Iowa, pretty much, correct? So it's where most of our manufacturing occurs.
For us, I think we do voice of client exercises where we talk to our customers about what's important to them. Some clients want to be on the bleeding edge of innovation and some want to be followers on proven concepts. So the ones that have identified that they want to be connecting to new ideas, we like Suka Manufacturing, if you go down the list, we've got clients all over the state that want to lean in and be aggressive. And so we lean in with them and we make those kind of connections. And other clients, they want it when it's proven and already, something that would apply to them without all of the starting a company from scratch takes a lot of innovation and rework. So some clients want to get involved in that and want to help shape it. Others don't.
I've been known in the past to call your association saying, hey, we're looking for a metal manufacturer in the food and ag industry to do this for a company in XYZ country. And so we just reach out to our contacts. So if you know people who we should be connecting with, then connect us with those people, because we're only as good as the connections we have as well. I think there's a huge opportunity as we look forward in the next 20 years to really look at our rural Iowa communities and really empower them to do more things, to know what they do well and then to step up. As we look at some of the major companies wanting to come in from even California to Iowa, none of them are producing, or I should say major scale-ups or startups, none of them are manufacturing their ingredients yet. They're using contractors to do it. So having that database of how we connect them till they get big enough to figure out how to do it on their own, that's a huge opportunity for us to introduce Iowa to them.
Yeah, thank you. John Dunwell, State Representative, also happen to be a member of the International Relations Committee, which we don't do a whole lot. So if you get us engaged, But number one is, if I hear about, we've got relationships being created with businesses. Obviously, our executive branch is fully engaged. There's some investment going on. You do remind me, though, that we need to make sure in the legislature, we view our university as economic engines for this research. I think we fall short in that area sometimes. There's a lot of other stuff in the noise world that cause the legislature to respond differently. We have to remember, these are major economic engines for the state of Iowa. My next question would be, besides that, are there any other obstacles that we unnaturally create because of who we are as a state or because of legislation that gets in the way of these kinds of relationships happening, like between businesses in Israel? Is there anything you can think of that we stand in the way or would be easier if, other than maybe giving Debbie some more money?
And that'd be a great investment. I mean, what Debbie does is incredible. I mean, the energy she brings and how she positions the state of Iowa and our labor force is really unbelievable. So I have so much respect for her work. You know, we have offices throughout the central United States, the Rocky Mountains to kind of Chicago. I would say that Iowa's the best kept secret in the fact that we don't promote who we are and what we have to offer. We're very humble in that, which I think is awesome. But at the same time, I think that's a barrier. We've got to do a better job of promoting the labor force that we have is incredible. The work ethic that we have is incredible. The access to relationships and getting things connected is a lot easier here than it would be in other states. The investment that we're willing to make is significant. And so we're willing, but we're able, we're just not positioned correctly. And I think for us, in one of the main verticals that the state wants to continue to promote and move forward, I believe we're better than Hartford. We're better than the coastal cities that have some assets to promote. We are really positioned incredibly well to the best accelerators in the insurance community with the Global Insurance Accelerator and Broker Tech. I think we collaborate nicely. So I would say that your point around the universities is one that I believe as well. I mean, whether it's Drake and their actuarial program, you've got Iowa State, it's got a sales development program that we partner with, and we've also got the University of Iowa and the risk management. Getting that back to being a major is important. We've talked with Terry Vaughn around how can we help get Broker Tech connected to the classroom so kids can see innovation is real, entrepreneurial is real. Holmes Murphy started and scaled several companies, some that we've kept, like Innovative Captive Strategy is still part of our organization, and others we've scaled and we've sold off to other companies. So you know, we believe that Iowa is a great place to do business, and connecting all of those dots and telling that story broadly is really, really important.
I would, go ahead. You might like what I'm thinking. I would like what you're thinking. I would like to add, first, thank you for recognizing the region's institutions as economic development entities. Our food and agricultural leadership position we hold would not be what it is without Iowa State University, and even the community colleges and how they support it. Second, as someone who has lobbied for 20 years of her life, and I've been out for 5 years, I think anything we can do as a legislature to accelerate innovation, whether it's innovation that is here or innovation that is coming here, to keep them here once they are, you know, here for 2 or 3 years. You know, that fully refundable R&D tax credit is something that I think people totally did not get. Anything we can do to continue to help fund research even coming out of universities to scale up, all that stuff is huge opportunities. We get caught up in some of the more political winds of the nation sometimes in our legislature. If we focus on continuing to grow our business, we might be really surprised what happens.
Yeah, I would also say, though, when I talked about all the tax reform that you all are doing and what the goals are by 2026, you could just hear people in the audience say, so certainly making us more competitive. But with that, though, does come the investments in the university. I mean, you know, I look at on the ag platform, for instance, you know, the talent that we have at Iowa State University, because, you know, we're applying for one of these hydrogen hubs. And as I talked about, are we going to develop the regenerative ag? Are we going to figure out this urban economy, right? And I think our Iowa should be the ones to do that. You know, you've got people at Iowa State University that are really geniuses in this field. And I mean, literally, I think Lisa got the Genius Award.
Yeah, she did get that.
So I mean, this is talent. And one of the things on the whole bio thing we talked about is we need to be funding more fellowships, right? We need that intellectual knowledge at the universities in these verticals. So whether it's like you said, Drake, and making sure that that we can train the workforce for tomorrow, or what the University of Iowa is doing, particularly in the med space and the med, because we should own medical devices too. We seeded that a long time ago in Minnesota, because what was happening is we had stuff coming out of our research university from the hospital, those doctors that are tinkering, and then they would go over there to Minnesota and manufacture it because they had the manufacturing capabilities. Well, we're, you know, after what Minnesota did crazy in their legislature this year, we are going after that business again, right? We should move all of that back to Iowa. We should own that. I mean, that's crazy stuff. So unlike what's going on next door, as long as it's, and Billy is right, representing one of the best incentives we have. And we have incentives for two reasons: to compensate for an uncompetitive situation, right? Which is why we've had all these tax credits over the years, because we were not competitive on our taxes. But you still have to have incentives that create wealth, right? Because to me, it's about not all jobs are good jobs. Not all development is good development. We want development in our state that raises the standard of living for Iowans. We want to create wealth. The best incentive to do that is R&D research tax credits. And it's the one that always takes a hit. You know that, Charles, when you were there, and it's unfortunate because it draws from a return on investment. It is absolutely the best incentive that we can have.
I'd
So,
love to see some numbers on that so I can.
okay, sure, I can get it.
I have to defend that sometimes.
Yes,
so.
I do. We can get it.
All right, folks, I'm sorry, we're out of time. I'm gonna invite Tom Henderson up here. You guys, we had what, maybe 30 minutes of silence, 30 seconds of silence and now everyone's got a question, which is great. And I'm sure our panelists would be happy to stick around and answer some questions you do have after we're done. But I do want to be respectful of everyone's time for those who do need to be out of here by 1 o'clock. So Tom, you want to close this out, please?
Well, on behalf of Iowans Supporting Israel, we'd like to thank Debbie, Dan, and Billy for their presentation today. We really appreciate having them here. We also would like to thank the Iowa State Bar Association for providing this wonderful space for us to meet. I can't think of a better place to do this, and we're very grateful to them for their continued support of our organization. As you know, Iowans Supporting Israel is a nonprofit organization. It's bipartisan. We seek to have a closer relationship with Israel in the areas of medicine, agriculture, business, education, and science. And when I mentioned that we are bipartisan, I want you to know that Charles is a Republican and I'm a Democrat, and we're co-chairs. Our board is made up half and half, which is great. We're all good friends. And we all work towards that common goal of creating a closer relationship with Israel. We welcome your involvement. If you want to become involved in our organization, that'd be great. If you have ideas for meetings like this, please let us know. And we also welcome your contributions to our organization. We have a goal of going statewide, but Bud has been pushing us hard in that area to become a statewide organization. And we're very grateful for former Governor and Ambassador Branstad's support, and also former Attorney General Tom Miller. We're going to pick their brains to find ways to get this organization statewide, because they both have run statewide and bring a wealth of knowledge to this type of organization. So again, thank you. Please keep coming to our meetings. We'll look forward to seeing you in the future.
Hey.